Hi guys, it's Nicole, and I am finally getting started on the Sketches with 4x6 Photos, which is a sketch bundle slash class that Allison Davis is running through Scrapbook Generation. You can still purchase the sketches, and there is still, I think that type of stuff will always stay on their store. However, the time frame to be in the Facebook group where you can kind of interact with other people participating, and then you get access to the other additional PDFs. I believe the time frame for that has closed, so I'm sorry. I know a lot of you are also participating in this. I have actually seen your guys' layouts, and I am jealous of how quickly you guys are moving through these. I had a little bit of a struggle bus getting started. I think just because with summer break, I'm not really in my room very often. I don't really have a lot of motivation to be up here. It's 100% a mental thing. So when I was kind of feeling the itch, I just kind of had to force myself to get in here and get started. And I pulled out all of my supplies that I had set aside specifically for this trip to San Diego Zoo. I had some stuff that I had kind of purchased and kept together. I had a newer collection from Simple Stories that I just got, which was part of a pre-order of all their summer stuff. And then I had a bunch of stuff that was left over from my mother-in-law actually went on this trip with us. And so when we got back, she immediately started scrapbooking this trip. So when she finished her album, she sent me her leftovers. So at this point, I don't really know what's what. I went through my supplies over and over and over again. I think the hardest part for me was picking papers and kind of getting a plan. I knew going into it that I was not going to follow the basic sketch. For some reason, I wasn't really feeling it. I want to say the first three, when I kind of skimmed the sketches, they were not my favorite, and I can't pinpoint what it is. So I looked through the options really closely and just kind of tried to figure out what was standing out to me in the modifications. So I settled on, I think it's option number 4, which if you have the PDFs, you know I'm talking about, where the background layers get extended all the way to the right. I liked that better than the open white area. And then I kind of went with option 17, which was on the adding more photos PDF, where she showed 3 2x2 photos, except I think I cropped mine to 2.5. It's kind of, I go with habitual numbers when I crop my photos. And then one of my 4x6s I split into 2 3x4s. So for me, most of the time, and I did cut a lot of it out of the video, was just trying to figure out paper placement. I pulled out this craft color. It's from Tuesday Morning, where you could buy the packs of paper. When I see solid colors like that, I would purchase them. I can't tell you the last time I've been in a Tuesday Morning. I don't even know if the one local to me still has scrapbooking stuff. I'm just still going through the stuff that I've bought for years. So I just kind of slowly start making decisions. I try not to cut my papers until I've made a decision. I kept putting my photos down on things to see how I liked them. I liked this corrugated rusty metal looking paper from Bo Bunny, but my photos were really getting lost on it. I knew that was going to be a problem later on when I went to do embellishing and things like that. So I went back to this yellow paper that I kept kind of coming back to. I'm kind of the mindset that, yes, these photos are from the Panda exhibit, and you would think more Asian themed motifs, or even there's a lot of red and gray in the photos from the way that they had designed the exhibit. I'm kind of going with the fact that this layout is going to be in an album for this trip, and most of the layouts in this album are going to be from the zoo. So it's just easier for me to kind of fall back on a more cohesive color palette. Plus, I liked the fact that by switching it to the yellow, it kind of allowed all of those like red elements from the exhibit to actually sort of pop and be seen a little bit. So as soon as I've kind of settled on a decision is typically when I go ahead and start attaching things. I've tried in the past to lay everything out and get like a good feel for it, but it drives me nuts when things start shifting and moving around. I prefer to just make a decision and kind of slap it down, glue it down, get it to stay. And so, especially layouts, I've said this before, and I think it's just a couple months of me sort of struggling with this. And I know if I am, say, in a valley with my regular life, I don't feel creative. I don't feel like sitting up here and working on stuff. And it's, if you struggle with that type of stuff, you know what I mean, where you're just, you kind of just don't want to do anything. You're just kind of focused on laundry, dishes, getting people where they need to be. And when the creative mood strikes, you kind of got to just almost allow that creative mood to dictate what's going to happen with your process. I know in the past with Allison's sketch bundles and when she's run these classes, I've used them as an opportunity to go like extra creative with things or focus on things like stitching or focus on things like die cuts and stamps. I kind of wanted to do that with this round, but I wasn't prepared time-wise. I wasn't prepared mentally. So I kind of just decided to almost wing it and not really pre-plan a lot of things. So that was a little bit different for me. Normally, I would try to work a little bit ahead so that I could also share my stuff on Mondays when everybody else that's kind of working ahead shares their things. This time, I decided, knowing that I wasn't super excited about the base sketches, that I was going to want to wait to see the PDFs for the modifications and kind of go from there. Even to the point of picking my photos. Like the day that I sat down and decided that I was going to start this class, I made a post in my Facebook group kind of asking what people thought, because I was bouncing around between like 3 different ideas. I settled on the panda exhibit from the zoo, edited my photos to fit into the modification that I was leaning towards. And then this is a process that I've been doing lately, is once I make a decision, I'm good with that decision and I move on. Sometimes that means digging through my supplies 4 or 5 times instead of just once. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing where the layout's going to go from start to finish. I'm okay kind of figuring out parts and pieces, walking away, coming back, and maybe my end result is not where I thought I was going to be when I started. And I'm kind of just settling into that. There are some layouts where I know almost in my mind what it's going to look like, start to finish, like a specific technique that I want to do. Lately, I have not been feeling that. Lately, I am just hoping for the best and seeing almost where the supplies take me. I did rely pretty heavily on where she had depicted the extra photos in the sketch. I want to say I shifted them a little tiny bit based on like what was happening in the background of my photos, because I didn't want to cover up anything. So I just kind of made sure that where they were overlapping other photos, that it was empty. And then again, I've made a decision on those 3 photos, so I'm going ahead and attaching them down. I did end up pulling it up. I kept looking at it and I was like, I don't want both photos to sort of go all the way down to the bottom on either side. I wanted one of them to be a little higher. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes my brain feel better. From then, I went through this sticker book, which is from that new Simple Stories collection. I can't think of the name of it. It's already across my desk. Now, I know a lot of people don't like these sticker books because the stickers are thin. I actually don't mind that. I just have to remind myself to be careful if I'm pulling them up and like moving them, because they do have a tendency to tear. I did rip one, but I was able to kind of put it back together. This one right here. I don't mind them. I like the fact that for the price point, I'm getting a decent amount, and especially the fact that I'm getting a lot of repetitive icons like the florals, the leaves, and in this instance, the little like paw prints. Now, normally my first response would be to hoard something like that and like tell myself, okay, you can use 3 of the little paw prints, save the rest for another layout. But I also have to remind myself that for these specific photos, with it being the pandas don't show up in a lot of these zoo collections and safari collections, if at all. So I kind of felt like anything that was going to work within that theme, I needed to just go ahead and be okay with using it. I didn't pay attention to like the types of leaves or the types of vines that I was using. I was looking at size, shape, and color. Same thing with, I wanted to bring in some of the florals just to kind of bring in a different shape, a different color. And I just kind of made sure that whichever one I was picking, well, you would actually see it on the paper. So like I didn't put a yellow floral on the yellow paper. At that point, I was trying to think of a title, and the only thing that like kept rattling around in my brain was, of course, they're sleeping. Ever since I was a kid, pandas were my favorite animal. And so when I knew that we were going to go to the zoo, I was like super excited to see them. And a couple weeks before we went, I had learned that the program that I guess we had with China and like borrowing the pandas was ending soon, and that there wasn't going to be another opportunity to kind of come back and see them. So I was super excited. We went there earlier in the morning because of the route that we took, and both pandas, we waited, you kind of wait in line, you have to be really quiet, and then you get into like the enclosure where you can see them, and they were both sleeping. To me, it was just like, of course they would be sleeping. That's my luck. One of them was kind of shifted like sideways and you could actually like see his face. The other one was just like laid out completely. You could like see his butt and like a couple, like you could see like his back feet. So I, tried to take what pictures I could while we were in there. I snapped a couple pictures of the signs while we were waiting in line and was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I can say I got to see the pandas. So the title was another thing that I put in my Facebook group, just kind of being like, hey, I'm struggling. It's a way for me to kind of bounce ideas around with people and either feel better about whatever title I'm thinking about, or maybe somebody will suggest one that works better or I like better, it just sounds better. So that's an aspect of the Facebook group that I've really been enjoying, because it's kind of like when you're sitting at a crop and you're like, hey, what do you think of this? Or does anybody have a suggestion for that? Kind of like that mentality, but I don't have to pack my stuff and leave my house. I did go ahead and stick the little panda head sticker that was from the sticker book up with my title. I felt like saving him would have been pointless. Again, I was okay with using like all the paw prints up on this layout. I was good with, going ahead and quote unquote wasting them, because the odds of me needing them for something similar like this are very low. Like, the pandas aren't in any US zoos anymore that I know of. I don't think I'll ever see another one. There would be no point for me to do any kind of panda themed layout. If that should ever come up for some reason, I don't even know what reason it could possibly be, I have a die and some other like generic zoo themed things that I can kind of make something work. This little sticker book, like I said, I know a lot of people don't like them. They can be a little bit expensive, but I used a ton of stuff from this. I actually really liked the fact that they were the thinner material. I loved the fact that there were so many duplicates because even though I used up a lot of the paw prints, in fact, I used all of the paw prints, there was still a ton of greenery left. There was still a ton of florals left. So I felt like I could still, continue to use those. My journaling, I decided that I kind of wanted to keep with this weird black and white theme. So I switched my journaling to a black background, white text. I felt like it would be a fun play on the whole panda thing and kind of match the different elements that I had going on. I used my favorite foam strips to attach them. I think it just kind of helps them stand out from everything going on a little bit better. And I just kind of try to nestle them to where I'm not completely covering up that sticker. I think when I was originally planning, I thought my journaling strips would be a little bit more narrow than this, but I went ahead and just made it work. I actually like seeing stuff like that kind of layered behind my journaling. And because of that, I went and grabbed another of the little floral stickers and the last of the paw prints to kind of nestle in and just sort of tie everything together. I did not date this layout because it's going to be part of like its own album over the span of 3 days, 4 days. I can't think of how long we were there. But yeah, so that's my take on sketch 1. I have yet to start sketch 2. I might actually skip ahead and do a different sketch, but we'll see. Until then, I appreciate you guys stopping by and I'll catch you later.